Let your imagination soar with Audible. With stories across every genre, from expert advice to fantasy, you'll be inspired to imagine new worlds, possibilities, and ways of thinking. Listening can even lead to a positive change in your mood, habits, and overall well-being. As an Audible member, you'll get to choose one title a month to keep from their entire catalog, including bestsellers and new releases. Allow yourself to delve into the spooky this season by listening to classics like Stephen King's The Shining and Pet Sematary. There's more to imagine when you listen. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. Visit audible.com/imagine or text imagine to 500-500. That's audible.com/imagine or text imagine to 500-500.
Worried about letting someone else pick out the perfect avocado for your perfect impress them on the third date guacamole? Well, good thing Instacart shoppers are as picky as you are. They find ripe avocados like it's their guac on the line. They are milk expiration date detectives. They bag eggs like the 12 precious pieces of cargo they are. So let Instacart shoppers overthink your groceries so that you can overthink what you'll wear on that third date. Download the Instacart app today to get free delivery on your first 3 orders, while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
Edit audio.
Hey folks, Robin here, and we are back with part 2 of our, I'm going to go out on a limb and call it a mini series talking about menopause. I just like the alliteration of it. All right, I know, you might be listening right now and you're all 25 years old with your like dewy, fresh face and skin and your regular periods, and you're thinking, oh, menopause, I don't need to think about that for like 100 years. Well, let me tell you something. I'd say clearly you missed last week's episode. Now, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. I'm kidding. Maybe just a little. Just go back and listen to it, okay? It's here. It's there for you. Anyway, Rosie Acosta, meditation teacher, wellness expert, and she is also a lady who was thrown into early menopause at 35. Well, she joined us last week, and here's a little recap of her story.
I honestly think, looking back now, I started having perimenopause symptoms at 34. If I really look back and start to think of, a couple of the missed periods and, just kind of my mood. And I blamed it on the fact that at the time I was traveling a lot. I was doing a lot of international retreats. There was a lot of stuff going on, and I just blamed the sort of missed periods, the moods, the lethargy, the brain fog. I was just blaming a lot of that on just traveling and being exhausted, right? So,
isn't that like one of the cruelest things about being a woman, whether it be getting your period, getting pregnant, or menopause? All of the symptoms are similar.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's relevant, folks. And if you missed that episode, I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm not disappointed. Just hit pause and head back. It's important. Now, back to my point. Even if you go through menopause at the traditional time, like me, I'm 54 and in perimenopause, heaviest of sighs, I was still blindsided by the symptoms, like the lack of information out there, the lack of people talking about this topic, and the shame around menopause. And also how quickly I was catapulted into that change. Like, I thought it was going to be like a nice little gradual. No, nothing gradual. I was thrown into it. So today, for part 2, we thought it would be a really great idea to talk about what we can do when it's our time for peri and menopause. We're joined by Jennifer, and she's a senior manager in nutrition affairs. Doesn't that sound like a fancy title? At life science company Timeline. And she's going to make us all feel warm and fuzzy and like we don't have to just sit back and suffer through menopause. There are some things that we can do to take control of our body and this change. But doesn't that sound nice? It does to me. Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hopkins, and this is Well Adjusting, where I talk to people about life stuff, but not in an NPR way. It's more like we're at the bar, having cocktails, getting into your business sort of way.
It's giving drunk NPR.
Oh, and producer Steph is here too.
Hello.
Today we chat, taking care of our bodies during menopause.
My name is Jen Scheinman. I am a registered dietitian. I have a master's degree in integrative and functional nutrition. I've been in the career of wellness for I always say 20 years, but I feel like it's going on 30 years now. It's been quite a while. I am a midlife woman, kind of going through perimenopause and trying to figure all of this out and really diving into the science of what's happening inside of our bodies and helping to educate women because so many of us aren't aware of what is going on. We think it's all like hot flashes and weight gain, and there's so much more that happens as we go through perimenopause, and we get dismissed by our doctors. And I just don't think that that is the way that things should be done. In this day and age, we should be speaking up for ourselves. We should be educated, and we should be able to get the help we need.
Yeah. And they should be directing financial studies towards us. You know, women should be included in the surveys and the studies and the clinical trials. But I'm so glad you're here because I'm living through what I like to say my second perimenopause. Like first was my wife, Mary, and now it's me. And I describe it as freaking horrific. And I feel like I need to apologize to my wife, Mary, publicly, because when she went through it, I was just like, I don't know, like take this estrogen. You're fine. Like, it's like, go take a cold shower. Like I was incredibly dismissive. And I think that is because of what you're talking about, that we just don't talk about it. Like, how did we not know it was coming?
I think we all knew it was coming, but I think
did we though? I mean, we know like menopause is out there, but it always seems so later. And
I think, well, to your point, right? We think it's later. And I think there's so much like when we go through puberty, when we are in our childbearing age, right? Like there's so much focus on some of these other changes that happen in our lives. And I think that women, as we age, we kind of have become like dismissed in society. We're just not an important part of society anymore. And so I think that's part of it as well. And I think that's really atrocious considering that most women will spend a third of their life in postmenopause, right?
Yeah, right. Oh, that stat, that hurts.
Yeah. So I think this is like the prime time to be having these conversations and to think about optimizing our health so that we can live the second half of our life or, third of our life feeling as great as we felt when we were younger.
Well, and you're right. Like there is that whole invisible thing. It does feel like everyone looks past you at a certain age and like marketing dollars aren't spent toward you. It's like until they are talking to you about pharmaceutical drugs when you're like 70, like no one cares about your money. No one cares about you. It's just like you're just kind of there.
Totally. As a woman who's going through perimenopause myself, I cannot even express how important having a community of people who you can share a lot of this personal stuff with, right? Because weird things are happening to our bodies that, you're just not even prepared to. Like, we smell different. Like, I wasn't expecting to get my period. Like, just weird stuff that nobody talked about, right? And so being able to talk to your friends about the little weird things, but also like the serious things, like, should I go on HRT? What are your thoughts? What's your doctor telling you? Because there's so much confusion and mixed messages that are happening out there. And so having people that you feel safe to talk about this to is so important.
Yeah. You brought up like, so community, but you also brought up like HRT, hormone replacement therapy. And that's something that I recently started. Like I would say last year I started and my experience has been like in the beginning, I was like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, wait, no, now this is happening. And then all of a sudden I'm a lesbian with an IUD. And then no, you don't have to take the progesterone. But then I was like, I haven't slept in days. And then we'll start taking the progesterone again. And it feels a little bit like I'm just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. And I'm just curious, like your thoughts on it as a whole, or like, and if someone wants to get involved, like when they should, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I don't feel like I am an expert enough in hormone replacement therapy to really shed some light other than my own personal opinion on what I'm doing for myself.
Which is totally fine too. That's valid.
So the more that I'm reading, I think there is definitely a place for it. And it sounds like starting early seems to be better than starting late. And I think there was a lot of fear-mongering, and I don't really want to say disinformation, but maybe just twisted headlines around the fears around breast cancer. I think they're real and legitimate, and we should not dismiss those. Where it gets really challenging, and where this has been a personal struggle for me too, is finding a doctor that you feel like you can have an honest conversation about your fears and what is right for you. And there's some interesting literature that I've been reading about estrogen playing kind of a longevity role and helping with a prevention around a lot of these things that are sort of our chronic diseases as we get older. But then there's also risk. So I think it just really has to be a very personalized journey and conversation. I I wish there were more doctors and healthcare practitioners out there. And this is something I'm personally kind of trying to learn more about. I can't prescribe, so I'll never be a prescriber and a recommender, but at least helping to educate women on the questions they should be asking.
That's it. That's it. Everyone's always like, advocate for yourself. But it's like, how do you even know how to advocate for yourself? So it does sound like it's around doing a bunch of research and understanding what questions you should ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think with anything in healthcare, right, and that's one of my missions is to just have women, and not just women, right, everybody, be their own expert in their own health, right? Like everybody's experience is unique and just being able to speak up. So I think there's research. I think there's finding experts that you trust and also finding experts on sort of both sides because so many people now aren't necessarily dismissing the research on breast cancer, but are just jumping on the other bandwagon, and every woman should be on some sort of menopause hormone replacement therapy. And I don't think that's the right answer either.
Hi, friends. If you listen to this show, then you know it is never a bad thing to ask for help. And sometimes we might even need help on a cellular level. I mean, who would have thought? And that's where our friends over at Timeline come in. Timeline is a Swiss life science company that has spent 10 years doing research to bring their product MitoPure to the market. 10 years, folks, that's a commitment. Now, on this show, we often talk about what happens over the long term, and unfortunately, aging is a part of that process. So are you ready for a quick science lesson? Okay, great. Mitochondria are our cells' power generators, okay? They're a key influence in how we age. And as we get older, mitochondrial efficiency, it naturally declines. And that's where MitoPure comes in. MitoPure is clinically shown to give our cellular energy generators new power by triggering the body's natural process for removing and rebuilding damaged mitochondria. You can think of MitoPure as like little Pac-Men in your cells just chomping up the damaged mitochondria that make you feel tired, and they're going to recycle it into new healthy ones. Now, you can take MitoPure in two ways, talking soft gels for when you're on the go and you want something super convenient, or they have a berry powder mix, which can be incorporated into breakfast, maybe, your daily yogurt, your smoothie, or if you're me, a Coke Zero. So taking 2 MitoPure soft gels a day for only 2 months, it can help you feel big improvements in your cellular energy, muscle strength, and endurance. After 4 months, you'll feel yourself getting stronger and experiencing less inflammation and recovering faster after workouts. I mean, who would not want that? So Timeline has a special offer for you, my amazing listeners. Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. You're going to go to timeline.com/RobHop. That's TIMELINE.com/RobHop. Go get it, folks.
Credit Karma makes building your credit straightforward and stress-free with help from our credit builder. Sign up today at creditkarma.com and start enhancing your financial health. Credit Karma, your partner in building a brighter financial future. Credit Builder plan is serviced by Credit Karma Credit Builder and requires a line of credit and savings account provided by Cross River Bank, member FDIC.
Okay, it's time to commit. 2024 is the year for prioritizing yourself. Begin your new smile journey with Byte, and you could start seeing results in just 2 to 3 weeks. Just order your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95 at Byte.com. Byte clear liners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces, plus they offer financing options, accept eligible insurance, and you could pay with your HSA, FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte.
It feels almost like we're starting to encroach on the fact that there's no magic bullet. Which
Totally.
I hate. I hate that's the answer. Jen.
There's no magic bullet in anything in life.
Jen, I want you to tell me there's a magic bullet, Jen.
It's funny because there's only one thing that I think I've said that every woman should do, and that is strength training. Otherwise, it's not necessarily like an all or nothing type of thing. Everybody responds differently to different interventions, feels better, is going through their own unique journey. But strength training would be the one thing that I do think that all women should be doing in some way, shape, or form.
All right, talk to me about that. Why? What's the benefit? Like I'm like walking and I play tennis, but I do have this nagging feeling I should be like lifting weights, and like I'm not.
So in our 30s, so even younger women who are listening to this, and
especially
everybody,
especially younger women that are listening to this,
in our 30s, we start to lose muscle mass. Everybody. So our muscle mass peaks in our 30s, and it starts to become a slow decline. And then when we start to get into our 60s, that decline starts to become a little bit more rapid. So unless you're actively doing something to counterbalance that muscle loss, i.e. strength training, you're on a decline to, hopefully not, but something called sarcopenia, which is this very severe loss of muscle, frailty. So when you think of older people who are struggling to walk, are not able to get up off the floor, if they fall, that's sarcopenia, that's muscle loss, right?
Yeah.
And we can hopefully prevent some of that by proper diet and strength training.
I'll tell you what, your dog feels very passionate about strength training, and I do love that.
I was just going to say, can you hear him?
It's okay. It's totally okay.
Women, again, especially in I'm Gen X and my age group, it was be small, be thin,
yes.
Count calories. And we don't have a lot of muscle mass. It was cardio, get on the cardio machines for as long as you can. And I am now thinking, I call it, I don't care about my beach body anymore. I care about my nursing home body. I don't want to be in a nursing home anymore. I want to think about how can I be as self-sufficient as long as possible. How can I, if I fall, get myself up off the floor? How can I play with my nephews and their children?
Yeah.
Do all the things when I'm my parents' age.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. It's how many people do you see just hunched over and they struggle going up and down stairs? And I want to have an active life for a very long time. And so I think that that's important. So are you talking I need to be doing squats? Or are we talking just get a trainer? Or are you talking about, does it need to be a weight routine? Can I just get some barbells? What are you recommending for folks?
So you got to start with where you're at. If you've never strength trained before, your body weight is body weight, and that's strength training. So anything that's adding resistance to your muscles counts. And then you can progress up from there. So you don't need to go to a gym and get a fancy, expensive personal trainer. There's so much stuff you can do at home and start with simple things like I said, squats, push-ups, sit-ups, those types of things. And then you can get resistance bands that are super cheap.
Yep.
I travel with those all the time. They're easy to throw in my luggage. But to really build muscle, it needs to be done to the point where you're feeling, fatigue.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can lift 5 pounds and you can do that 20 curls like this and you don't feel tired, that's not enough. You need to do something that's
I applaud your effort, but you need to do more.
You need to do more. Yeah. But you can start where, and it's going to be different for everybody. So I might be able to lift more than somebody who has never lifted before in their life, but they're going to fatigue at a lighter weight, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I always think about those old people at the gym that are on the recumbent bikes and they have a novel out and they're reading and they don't really sweat. And look, I applaud you for coming into the gym, but it needs to remain at a place where you're working hard, and you'll have to keep increasing if you're plateauing. There's a million YouTube videos you could probably watch.
Totally. And again, I don't think we need to overcomplicate how to do it. If you're starting to feel tired, that's good.
Yeah.
And even though I keep saying it starts in our 30s, it is never too late. I was just reading a study that I forget what the age group, but it was older people in their 70s and 80s who started doing strength training, and they still are able to help to slow down that decline, build muscle. So it's never too late.
Oh, I love that.
I don't care how long you've sat on a couch, get up. You can still do it.
I love it. So it's never too late. I love that as a mantra. Talk to me about diet, because it's I feel you're going to say something there is a portion of this you need to eat better, and Robin, eat better.
So, of course, I'm biased as a nutritionist, but I think diet is the foundational piece. That's why I went into this career. But again, there's not a one size fits all. I don't care if you want to be a vegan or you want to consume animal protein, you got to consume protein. That's another must. I think an easy way to do it is at least 100 grams a day or 30 grams at a meal.
Okay.
And so what that looks like would be potentially 3 ounces of chicken. I think of that as the size of a deck of cards. It's not super hard to get. It just takes some thought. And if you are plant-based, it takes a little extra thought, because even things people think nuts are a great source of, plant-based protein. And they do have a great amount of protein for plants, but it's still far from a piece of chicken or beef or fish. So you just need to take more planning and make sure that you're getting lots of variety in your protein, beans, nuts, legumes, grains, all of that. Ideally, even potentially, a protein powder, both whether you eat meat or not. That's an easy way to add an extra boost of protein.
Yeah, I love a good protein shake.
I do too. It's easy, and it's so easy to get your veggies in there, get your fruit in there. Like you can make it a complete meal and then drink it on the go.
Yeah, totally. Well, I feel like we're starting to butt against supplements a little bit. Every 5 seconds, somebody's telling me because there's a million symptoms. Like I have like the restless leg syndrome that comes with, I've kind of always had it, but it definitely it's taking center stage with perimenopause. And then people are like, you need to be taking magnesium. And then someone else is like, you should be taking iron because you're old. And then you also don't forget your calcium. Someone else was like, take the L-theanine, the stuff from green tea, because that's going to help me. And then that was making me sleepy, but then it was keeping me up. And I was like, I keep like starting things and for like 2 weeks and then probably has had no effect. And then I stop it and then I start something else. And then I'm like, can I be taking 27 pills? Like I feel very lost in the supplement area.
It's so challenging. So here's how I think of it. And I personally try to be very conservative. It's funny because I've worked with lots of people who are like, I don't ever want to take a pharmaceutical, but they have no problem popping like 50 supplements every day. And to me, that just seems counterintuitive. Like I want to try and get as much as I can through my food, but sometimes, a supplement is super helpful to supplement the diet. That's what it's meant to do and to kind of help with things that we're going through. And there's also so much mixed messages. So one of the things I think is super important is you got to be an advocate for yourself. You've got to research and not just be even your favorite like influencer. You got to do the research on what they're promoting because most supplements are not studied well. They're not highly regulated by the FDA. So what that means is that a supplement brand can go and put something out on the market. They don't have to test it. They can, make certain claims about it. And until like the FDA gets wind of it and is like, this is a false claim, or somebody complains that they got like injured from it, nobody's really monitoring that very carefully.
This feels like a really good system.
It's great, right? And then the other thing that's sort of scary is you get like Amazon can sell just about anything. So you might be getting weird things from, overseas that are like laced with like heavy metals and other things in there. And so you just need to be very careful and mindful and thoughtful about where you get your supplements. So I do work as the senior manager of nutrition affairs at a company called Timeline. And one of the things that really drew me to this company was the fact that they put research first.
Yeah.
And so what that means is they're really kind of approaching dietary supplements much more like a pharmaceutical. They did a decade and a half worth of research before they even launched a product. And a company that's doing research like that and that is really proud of the research that they've done and the safety of their supplements is going to put it all over their website. They're going to put it out there. You can ask for it. You can say, hey, can I see these published research journals? All this data, where does it come from? And they'll share it with you proudly.
Can you talk a little bit about Timeline?
Yeah. So Timeline makes a supplement called MitoPure, which is a nutrient that I bet almost everybody listening has never heard of. And I love being able to talk about things that people have never heard of. So it's a nutrient called urolithin A. And I know that's a mouthful. So that's why we call it MitoPure. And it is, I'm going to try to not get too nerdy, although I'm a big nerd, but it is It triggers this anti-aging process in our body. And I know that sounds very like woo-woo, but our body has this ability to regenerate itself. And that's part of like fasting. If anybody in your community is super into fasting and why fasting has become this like longevity boosting process, it triggers this recycling process inside our cells. As our cells get old and damaged, you can actually break them down, rebuild them, and have new, healthier cells. And so that's what MitoPure does, is it works on the energy generators inside our cells, our mitochondria, and recycles them. And the reason I think it's so important is, the research is all great, of course, but the fact that what it's helping to do is to make each one of your cells act in a more youthful way, have more cellular energy. And then what the studies have shown is that we have better muscle function. So better muscle strength, better muscle endurance. And for midlife women who maybe aren't strength training, or younger women who are just starting to think about the fact that their muscles are starting to decline and how they can prevent nursing home body. that's really key, is anything that can help to make you stronger and make your muscles better. And then the research on urolithin A is so exciting because it's kind of going beyond the muscle story as we start thinking about the fact that it can help the energy generators in all parts of your body. So we have lots of mitochondria in our brain, in our skin, in our joints, our ovaries. Ovaries are the fastest aging organ in a woman's body.
I just heard
and
about that. It's disturbing.
So disturbing. And so much of this is tied to mitochondrial decline. And I know this sounds sort of scary. Like, what is the mitochondria? What does it do? But my belief is, like, in 5 to 10 years, people are going to be talking about mitochondria the way we talk about the gut right now.
Yeah.
Right? Like 10 years ago, people were like, what? I got these critters that live in my gut. I have bacteria that's in my gut and it's good for me and I want it there and I want to nourish it. 5 to 10 years, we're going to be talking about our mitochondria the same way. People are going to be thinking about how our cells operate, how our cells get energy, and what we can do to help them act in a more youthful way.
It makes me hopeful for my 15-year-old daughter. Less so for my 53-year-old ass, but like anything they can do to help me. Like, I love your nursing home body. Like, to stave that off as long as I can, is good. Hey, everybody. I wanted to tell you about a new podcast that I just came across that I have fallen in love with, and it is called Unleash Your Inner Creative with Lauren LaGrasso. Okay, this is a Webby Award-winning show, and it's hosted by Lauren, who is she just happens to be a multi-passionate creative who's known as a award-winning podcasting host, an executive producer, a singer, a songwriter. She's a public speaker, just also happens to be a creative coach. Like, no big deal. She's not tired at all. All right, now, what I am really digging about this show is that it's this really kind of unique blend of mental health, there's some spirituality, self-development, and we're talking about the creative process. I mean, is that not what we love? And the show takes a holistic approach to creativity. So it's going to offer you tools to love and trust and know yourself, important, so that you can claim your birthright to creativity and pursuing your dreams. It's so good, y'all. And each week on Unleash Your Inner Creative, Lauren has all kinds of guests like Julia Cameron. Hello, how many times have we heard me talk about The Artist's Way? Julia is the author. NPR's Guy Raz, Grammy Award-winning artist Chrisette Michelle, and celebrity brain coach Jim Quick. They're going to help you define your relationship with fear, follow your heart's desires, and truly unleash your inner creative. Okay, so for me, obviously, my favorite episode is the one with Julia Cameron, and I highly recommend that you give it a listen. And the beauty is that new episodes of Unleash Your Inner Creative come out every Wednesday, and you can listen to it now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever good podcasts are found.
This is a mini meditation guided by Bombas. Repeat after me. I'm comfy. I'm cozy. I have 0 blisters on my toes. And that's because I wear Bombas, the softest socks, underwear, and t-shirts that give back. One purchased equals one donated. Now go to bombas.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY at checkout.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
We have been sold this idea of health as like thinness or like beautifulness. And I still think that's prevalent, like, I mean, even just preparing for this, I was talking to Robin and I was like, someone just told me that I have 11s, which I didn't even know what that was, but it's like wrinkles in between your like eyebrows from making a like what the fuck face probably all the time, because that's my general disposition. And never once was I thinking like, oh, I have wrinkles. What does that mean for my body or my health, or like what is actually happening to cause these? Like, I'm just like, okay, like, should I be getting filler so that I'm less ugly?
Oh,
which is nuts. Like, that's bananas. And then you're reframing this of like, who cares about a beach body? Let's think about like this nursing home body. I do think that's like, we should be thinking more holistically, and there's definitely been a shift, but I would like to be doing more of that for myself. And I think, even with like exercising, I try to be really mindful of like not exercising to look a certain way or get a result in a certain way, but exercising so that like my body is useful for me and helpful and like performing in the ways that it can. But that's so hard when you're being constantly fed these other messages. So I just love talking to you and hearing that, and especially hearing that, you're seeing and working with companies that are like doing research to like help people actually feel good, not just like look hot.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to look hot too, right? Because that also does make you feel good. But I think the definition of that is changing and has to change, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's slow. I mean, I struggle with it myself too, right? Like, I am like, oh, do I really want to post a picture of myself on social media right now? Like,
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the wellness industry, I think you're even held to an even higher
imagine.
standard. But, I think we're all starting to realize like some of these visions of what a woman should look like are,
bullshit.
They're fed to us by, they're fed to us by like a male-led society. They're complete bullshit, and we shame each other, and it's terrible. Yeah. And I just hope I can kind of be a voice for like the average woman, right? Like this is just like what a real woman's body looks like. We're all trying to balance work, life, friends, family. I don't have time to like be in the gym 5 hours a day and like home cook and grow my own food. And, that's just not realistic. I mean, that would be lovely if we lived in a society like that. This is just real life.
And I think it's interesting because there's like a whole system that we're getting at in this conversation that is just like devaluing and deprioritizing women's well-being. It also means that like we're not encouraged to ask questions, which you talked about. I guess I want to like leave people with some like advice tips from you. So like if someone was going to their doctor, what do you think are like good questions that they should be asking or should feel comfortable asking?
So I think first of all, women should feel very comfortable before even asking a question, like sharing what's going on, right? Like, hey, I'm having these weird symptoms. I want to know more. I think being aware that these changes that happen with perimenopause can start earlier than we think, right? So the average age that we go through menopause is like in our early 50s. The changes can start 10 years before. And so some women, it can even start in their late 30s, right? So if something feels off to your body, you should feel very empowered to talk to your doctor. And if your doctor dismisses you, I know this is easier said than done, but find a new doctor, right? It's sometimes challenging based on where we live and insurance, but there's a lot of telehealth that is coming out for like helping to make hormone management and menopause more accessible to women wherever they live. So I think that's the first thing. I think the questions you want to ask are, what is your doctor's sort of thoughts on hormone replacement therapy and how that could be impactful or dangerous for you, understanding how severe your symptoms are. And if they're really like impacting your life and your happiness, then I think then advocating for, I want to try this, I want to have my hormones tested. And one thing I would say is testing as much as possible. I know there's some doctors that say, you don't have to test hormones because it's just one moment in time, but I just had mine tested and it turns out actually that my thyroid is also a little bit low, which I was thinking my symptoms were because my estrogen was low. So you really want to make sure that you're getting everything tested and doing a holistic view, because you could think it's menopause and it could be something completely different. Or you could think it's something totally different and it could be menopause. And so data is really what can help you with that.
Yeah. This is coming like so full circle for me because I reached out to a bunch of friends and family before talking to you, just being like, hey, does anyone have any questions about like aging and menopause? And 80% of them ask me like, hey, this is what I have. Menopause feels so intangible and scary. How do you even know if you're perimenopausal?
It's funny because there's these memes that go around on social media that will like play a song from the 80s and they're like, if you know the words to this song, you're in perimenopause. And to be honest, I think that's the best test. Like if you, because sometimes you'll feel symptoms and your hormone levels won't show that. Sometimes your hormones might be off the charts or below the charts and you don't feel symptoms. So chances are, if you're in your 40s, you are starting to go through perimenopause. but it could happen earlier, it can happen later. So there is no foolproof test, which is also what makes it really hard and challenging. But if you're also noticing things, like for me, the first thing I noticed was my sleep. I used to say that sleeping, like if I had a superpower, it was sleeping. Like I could sleep anywhere at any time, and all of a sudden couldn't sleep. For me, the next thing was like just brain fog. Like I can't remember anything, like having trouble focusing. Those were the big changes for me. But for other women, it might be like their weight is changing, their mood, their skin is changing. Just, of course, the like hot
like
flashes.
I can second mood. Mine was anger. I was angry for like 2 to 3 years, and I wish that I had pieced that together. But also joint pain. I was like, my knees hurting coming up and downstairs. I'm like, I go downstairs all the time. So it's like those kinds of things. And I almost feel like people need to have all the symptoms and then just like you said, know your body and know yourself and just be checking on them.
Totally. And you know, it could be menopause and it could be something else, which is why you also need to have a doctor that you trust and can have these conversations with. But I think being aware that estrogen and all of our hormones, I like to think of our hormones as like, they're like a symphony, right? With like different instruments in the symphony. So there's, of course, our reproductive hormones like estrogen and progesterone, but there's also our stress hormones, cortisol, insulin, right? All these things play in the sandbox together. And when one is off, everything is off. So when your estrogen and your progesterone start dropping, it's going to impact your brain. It's going to impact your joints. It's going to impact everything. And I think it's more than just the loss of fertility. It's holistic in your body. And so if women can recognize even just that one point, that the changes in your hormone are going to impact everything.
Yeah.
Then you'll sort of know this is a new thing for me. This is a new symptom. I'm in my 40s. I'm in my late 30s. I'm, even in my 50s, whatever it is, that's a good indicator.
If you were to give someone, like I come to you, I'm like terrified of aging. And I also am like scared I'm perimenopausal, maybe potentially should be like staving it off in ways that I could. What are your quick fire tips that we could go more into depth about?
So I think the first thing would be strength training. If you're not doing it, you got to start. If you're doing it, are you doing it to the point where you're really fatiguing those muscles and you're helping to get your muscles stronger? I think the second point would be you got to look at your diet, because a lot of symptoms can be managed with your diet, especially if you're eating a highly processed food diet. You're going to feel significantly better kind of cleaning that up. So that would be for sure. Smart supplementation. So we know we touched on that. I'll share what I personally take. I take a multivitamin. I take vitamin D. I take magnesium. I take a probiotic. I take a fish oil. I take creatine, and I take MitoPure.
Wow. Okay.
That's a lot. But I think those are sort of the foundational things that most, I feel like, are lacking in my diet. And then just enjoying life, right? Like life is stressful. We're waking up with like meno rage for no reason at all. Like get outside, try and find something that still like speaks to your heart and makes you feel alive and makes you feel good, and find time for that. And, whether it's as something as simple, like I'm a severe chocolate addict, like I have to have dark chocolate every day, and that's like my little moment of zen, or, taking the dog for a walk, time with your little menopause, like finding something that just makes you feel alive and makes you feel excited to kind of get up and embrace the day.
Oh my God, menopause. I think you are the leader of our menopause, Jen. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing all this.
Thanks for having me. This was super fun.
Oh, that was such a good conversation with Jen, Steph. I'm so glad that we did these two conversations. I always felt like getting over shame requires doing the thing that you don't necessarily want to do, which is it's just saying the damn thing. Am I right?
Yeah, totally.
And that's what we did here, right? We said the damn thing.
We said the damn thing.
I feel like the one thing we didn't say a lot was vagina, which I was quite surprised by, but especially. But we just got one in now. So, but I want to ask you, what's your biggest takeaway from these two interviews?
Ooh, I have a lot of takeaways, but I think the biggest personal takeaway for me is that I am going to make it a point to make a doctor's appointment and get my hormones and stuff checked. I'm obviously putting this off. There are real reasons I'm putting it off, but then there's also the emotional reasons. And I think after the end of these two episodes, I realized, there's some sort of block there that's beyond just the annoyances of medical care.
That's the same one I have for why I haven't made my physical therapy appointment for my knee. And I'm going on 3 weeks at this point from the doctor's appointment. So no, I'm going to be like, hopefully I'll make it before the follow-up check-in doctor's appointment. All right. My biggest takeaway was, I mean, obviously the whole shame part, like just that came up for me in the Rosie section, but in the Jennifer episode was, I'm preparing for not beach body, but nursing home body. And I was like, that really struck me. And after recording, Mary and I started lifting. And of course, then we made it a couple weeks and we fell off. But I'm getting back because I want to prevent nursing home body. So that was a very big takeaway.
I love that. That's incredible. I love that you already implemented it. I'm like, I'm going to plan to do this. You're already doing it.
But I already implemented and failed.
It's not a failure. You're still lifting more than you were before.
That is true. And we're gonna pick it back up this week. I commit.
Hell yeah.
And no matter what, Steph, I'm proud of us for saying the thing, bringing it to the people, and helping to make the inevitable maybe a little less difficult. And I hope that this whole conversation, all these conversations, encourage everyone to talk, to share, and to advocate. Because, I mean, I just feel like nobody should feel like they're written off in their 50s. So create those communities, folks, because we are stronger together. And guess what? That's it, Steph. That's the whole thing.
That's it. That's all,
That's
folks.
it. Thanks for joining us on this menopause journey, y'all. And thanks to Rosie Acosta. Get her book at You Are Radically Loved. Head to her hub, radicallylove.com. Just follow Rosie everywhere. And thanks to today's guest, Jennifer. And for all her info, you can check the show notes. And if you want to take control of your aging journey, check out our friends at Timeline at timeline.com/RobHop. For more Robin, and you may need that, you probably don't need it, but like if you do, you can follow me at Real Rob Hops on all the platforms, all the socials, as the kids today say. Well Adjusting is an Edit Audio original series. It's exec produced by Steph Colburn and Robin Hopkins. Our producer and editor is Maria Passingham, and our production manager is Kathleen Speckert. Thank you to the entire Edit Audio team and to you for listening. Oh, hey, before you take out those AirPods, this show is just for entertainment. If you are in need of help, please, please, please reach out to a professional. Go ahead and get that help. You deserve it.